had similarities in what they were living to realize God was giving correction in how they should deal with that. And so then that's why her individual letters then started to be compiled into books and so forth. Yes, yep.
And I think too that sometimes people will look at one of the testimonies for a particular topic matter that's going, maybe something in their home, seeing if she wrote on it, and so.
Yeah, because
you could use a search feature.
Exactly right.
And find topics.
So God is talking to one person through her, but in reality then by putting it into a published booklet, pamphlet, whatever, then it covers all the people who are in that same vein, going in the wrong direction. And so it's interesting there at the last sentence, if one is reproved for something they've done, then everyone else should look at what's this reproof about and how then does that affect me and apply to me. Anyway.
Gotcha.
All right. Doria, you want to read now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Editing the published testimonies in 1884. Dear Brother Smith, I have today mailed you a letter, but information has been received from Battle Creek that the work upon testimonies is not accepted. I wish to state some matters which you can do what you please with. These statements you have heard me make before, that I was shown years ago that we should not delay publishing the important light given me because I could not prepare the matter perfectly. My husband was at times very sick, unable to give me the help that I should have had and that he could have given me had he been in health. On this account, I delayed putting before the people that which has been given me in vision. But I was shown that I should present before the people in the best manner possible the light received. Then, as I received greater light, and as I used the talent God has given me, I should have increased the ability to use in writing and in speaking. I was to improve everything as far as possible, bringing it to perfection, that it might be accepted by intelligent minds. As far as possible, every defect should be removed from all our publications. As the truth should unfold and become widespread, every care should be exercised to perfect the works published. I saw, in regard to Brother Andrew's History of the Sabbath, that he delayed the work too long. Other erroneous works were taking the field and blocking the way so that minds would be prejudiced by the opposing elements. I saw that thus much would be lost. After the first edition was exhausted, then he could make improvements, but he was seeking too hard to arrive at perfection. This delay was not as God would have it.
Okay. So what happened is she had submitted writings to be published, and the publisher says, we can't do that. This isn't fit. Anyway, and so she was saying, yes, it'll get polished as time goes on, but as Brother Andrews had written something, and he was trying to finish it up and make it right and do that, and delayed its publication. And she's saying, I don't feel like that would be the right thing to do. So I'm sending you what I have. Go ahead and publish it. Next time, if we reprint it, then we can make edits and so forth and polish it up a little bit so that it's more presentable. And so that was the issue taking place. She says, but I don't want to delay because the message needs to go to the people. And if I wait too long, others get in front of it and prejudice people relative to what things are happening. Okay. All right, Jeff. She continues her letter. I was just interrupting that.
Now, Brother Smith, I have been making a careful critical examination of the work that has been done on the testimonies, and I see a few things that I think should be corrected in the matter brought before you and others at the General Conference 1883. But as I examine the matter more carefully, I see less and less that it is objectionable. The language used is not the best. I want it made correct and grammatical, as I believe it should be in every case where it can be without destroying the sense. This work is delayed, which does not please me. My mind has been exercised upon the question of the testimonies that have been revised. We have looked at them over more critically, and I cannot see the matter as my brothers see it. I think the changes will improve the book. If our enemies handle it, let them do so. I think that anything that shall go forth will be criticized, twisted, turned, and boggled. But as we are to go forward with a clear conscience, doing what we can and leaving the results with God, we must not be long in delaying the work. Now, my brethren, what do you purpose to do? I do not want this work dragging along any longer. I want something done and done now.
It's interesting, she says that if we make changes to it, then people will criticize and it create questions and so forth. But I think in time it needs to be modified and put in a better point of view, which we have movements within our church today that want to go back to the 1800s and some of the early writings and establish their beliefs on that, as opposed to taking what she has edited and changed to be more clear and succinct. And so it does, she was right. There will be questions arise because the writings have been changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's saying, but I'm the one going to be making those changes and editing them and approve the newer edition as being appropriate. So don't worry about it. Let God take care of it, she says. You know, if they're going to create questions, let them do that, but realize this is what God is directing us to do. Anyway, so she published early on without having polished it, but then as the printings continued to be changed or renewed, she would make edits and corrections and make it smoother as far as the presentation goes. And so, you know, she was right in saying, you know, this is going to create some strife down the road.
I'm sure God told her that this would happen.
Right, exactly right.
Yeah.
But God will deal with it, and if people have problems, then so be it.
The content would be the same. I mean, the content, what she's trying to say would be the same. It would be just punctuation and...
Most likely, but some of the questions are over the usage of words. Some of the older English and now in the modern English, and then they begin to bicker about, are we staying with what was original, or are we allowing change to take place, which is going to change the whole church? And you know, anyway, so she was addressing that issue here early on to say, you know, it may cause problems, but this is, I think, what God would have us to do and move forward. Anyway, okay, you can finish that chapter.
Okay, I must select the most important matters for Testimonies, Volume 6, and look. And then look over everything, prepared for it, and be my own critic. For I would not be willing to have some things which are all truth to be published, because I fear that some would take advantage of them and hurt others. After the matters of the testimony is prepared, every article must be read by me. I have to read them myself, for the sound of voice and reading or singing is almost unendurable to me. I try to bring out general principles, and if I see a sentence which I fear would give someone excuse to injure someone else, I feel at perfect liberty to keep back the sentence, even though it is all perfectly true. Continue?
Yeah, go ahead and finish
Okay.
it out.
I am endeavoring by the help of God to write letters that will be a help not merely to those who they are addressed, but to many others who need them.
Okay, so this whole chapter has been a continuation from 1884 until this last one was 1905. And so she's herself addressing the issue that's going to take place along the journey as time moves forward. Originally, it's just a few papers or letters and then put together as pamphlets and then put together as books. And she's just saying each time we have a new edition, so to speak, we can fine-tune, put in commas, misspelled words, you know, as long as it's going to be still the same content. Right. But here, the next to last paragraph, you know, that some things she would not necessarily put in print in the new edition because it may give others opportunity to be hurtful to people, to say, you know, this is what she said, you need to change it or whatever. Anyway, so, you know, it's interesting that, you know, I will read over it. Any changes have to go to me anyway. And so the critics are going to be upset and cause problems, but I am approving the change, and it's still her writings then, even though they've been edited by her, approved by her, the editing that's been done. Anyway.
Kelly, you want to pick it up? Oh, you got a mic?
Oh, everybody's got a mic, except, you gonna borrow mine?
Chapter 14.
Yes.
Initial steps in writing and publishing the Great Controversy story. In 1858, Great Controversy Vision. The vision, March 14, 1858. In this vision at Lovitz Grove, Elder and Mrs. White, who resided in Battle Creek, Michigan, were holding meetings with the believers at Lovitz Grove, Ohio. The vision here referred to was given to Ellen White while attending a funeral service conducted by her husband on a Sunday afternoon. Most of the matter of the great controversy which I had seen 10 years before was repeated, and I was shown that I must write it out. That I should have to contend with the powers of darkness, for Satan would make strong efforts to hinder me. But angels of God would not leave me in the conflict, that in God must I put my trust. Satan's attack. Monday we commenced our journey homeward. While riding in the cars, we arranged our plans for writing and publishing the book called The Great Controversy, immediately on our return home. I was then as well as usual. On the arrival of the train at Jackson, we went to Brother Palmer's. We had been,
Yeah, bro.
it says bro.
Modern terminology. Bro.
We had been in the house but a short time when I was conversing with Sister P. Well, this is crazy. My tongue refused to utter what I wished to say and seemed large and numb. A strange, cold sensation struck my heart, passed over my head and down my right side. For a while I was insensible, but was aroused by the voice of earnest prayer. I tried to use my left arm and limb, but they were perfectly useless. For a short time, I did not expect to live.
Okay, now as a nurse, what are these symptoms indicating?
Stroke,
Okay. All right.
most likely.
Interesting. Okay.
For several weeks I could not feel the pressure of the hand, nor the coldest water poured upon my head. In rising to walk, I often staggered and sometimes fell to the floor. In this condition, I commenced to write The Great Controversy. I could write at first but 1 page a day, then rest 3. But as I progressed, my strength increased. The numbness in my head did not seem to becloud my mind, and before I closed that work, Spiritual Gifts, Volume 1. This is weird. Where do I pick it up at?
Shown, keep going ahead till you see shown Satan's hinder intact.
Okay. I don't like this.
I know. The phone app doesn't do
I don't
justice.
like this at all. At the time of the conference at Battle Creek, June 1858, I was taken off in vision. In that vision, I was shown that in the sudden attack at Jackson, Satan designed to take my life to hinder the work I was about to write. But angels of God were sent to my rescue to raise me above the effects of Satan's attack. I saw, among other things, that I should be blessed with better health than before the attack at Jackson.
You want to read the next section? It'll finish the
Okay.
chapter. It's only one more full page.
Is that after we returned?
Yes, after we return.
It is? Okay.
After we returned from the East, I commenced to write Volume 3, expecting to have a book of a size to bind in with the testimonies which helped compose Volume 4. As I wrote, the matter opened before me, and I saw it was impossible to get all I had to write in as few pages as I first designed. The matter opened, and Volume 3 was full. Then I commenced on Volume 4, but before I had my work finished, while preparing the health matter for the printers, I was called to go on to Monterey. We went and could not finish the work there as soon as we expected. I was obliged to return to finish the matter for the printers. I had written almost constantly for above 1 year. I generally commenced writing at 7 in the morning and continued until 7 at night, and then left writing to read proof sheets. Is that the end?
There's one more segment.
Author's preface.
Yes.
In presenting this, my third little volume to the public, I am comforted with the conviction that the Lord has made me his humble instrument in shedding some rays of precious light upon the past. Sacred history relating to holy men of old is brief. Since the great facts of faith connected with the history of holy men of old have been opened to me in vision, also the important fact that God has nowhere lightly regarded the sin of the apostate, I have been more than ever convinced that ignorance as to these facts and the wildly advantage taken of this ignorance by some who know better are the grand bulwarks of infidelity. If what I have written upon these points shall help any mind, let God be praised. When I commenced writing, I hoped to bring all into this volume, but am obliged to close the history of the Hebrews, take up the cases of Saul, David, Solomon, and others, and treat upon the subject of health in another volume.
Okay. So we have the beginning of the great controversy, which Satan was trying to prevent. Anyway, made writing hard. But can you think about writing from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? No.
I can't concentrate more than 10 minutes.
But as the middle of that segment, the last segment that Kelly was reading, as soon as she would write, she would send it to the printers, even though it wasn't to be put together in a booklet, so that they could go ahead and set the type and get things ready to begin the process. And so she was pushing it as fast as it could to the printer so that it would be published as quickly as possible. And she came to a conclusion there of the history of the Hebrews, which in affects is probably patriarchs and prophets, what we call today. Anyway, so it's interesting to see the development from nothing, pamphlets, and then put together in a little booklet, and just growing and growing and growing as she continues to write. This last segment was from 1867, 68, somewhere along there. And so, it's still early on in her writing experiences. All right, chapter 15. You want to start again, John? This one has dates. It's all consecutive. Every few days, 10 days or whatever, there's a new entry or whatever in this particular chapter as time passes and what she's doing and writing and so forth.
Okay. All right. March 25th, 1876. Mary Clout and I will do all we can to forward the work of my writings. I cannot see any light shining into Michigan for me. This year I feel that my work is writing. I must be secluded, stay right here, and I must not let inclination or persuasion of others shake my resolution to keep closely to my work until it is done. God will help me if I trust in him. Letter 63, 1876 to James White, March 25th, 1876. April 4th, we have been having company about every day for some days back, but I tried to stick to my writing and do as much each day as I dare. I cannot write but 1/2 of a day each day. Mary is in the office, I upstairs writing. I have had much freedom in prayer and sweet communion with God in my waking hours at night and early in the morning. I am gaining some strength, but find that any taxation affects me seriously, so that it takes time to recover from it. My trust is in God. I have confidence that He will help me in my efforts to get out the truth and light He has given me to give to His people. April 7th, the precious subjects opened to my mind well. I trust in God, and He helps me to write. I am some 24 pages ahead of Mary. She does well with my copy. It will take a clear sense of duty to call me from this work to camp meetings. I mean to finish my writings on one book, at any rate, before I go anywhere. The East will not see me for 1 year unless I feel that God calls me to go. He has given me my work. I will do it, if I can be left free. Letters 4, 1876. On April 8th, I have liberty in writing, and I plead with God daily for counsel, and that I may be imbued, okay, with His Spirit. I then believe that I shall have help and strength and grace to do the will of God. I never had such an opportunity to write in my life, and I mean to make the most of it. How will it do to read my manuscripts to elders, J.H. Wagner and J.N. Lofbrow? Lofbrow. If there is any wording of doctrine points not so clear as might be, or he might discern it.
That'd be Elder Wagner.
Elder Wagner, I mean,
Yep.
okay. April 8th, my husband writes that an appeal is to be sent to me from the General Conference session, but I shall not be moved from that which I believe to be my duty at this time. I have a special work at this time to write out the things which the Lord has shown me. I have a work to do which has been a great burden to my soul. How great, no one but the Lord knows. Again, I want time to have my mind calm and composed. I want to have time to meditate, and pray while engaged in this work. I do not want to be wearied myself to be closely connected with our people who divert my mind. This is a greater work, and I feel like crying to God every day for His Spirit to help me to do this work all right.
All right. So far, it's been day by day, so to speak. I mean, what's happening is they had built a house, and her husband, James, had to leave to go to the General Conference session, and they were separated for 2 months, plus or minus a little bit. And so these are excerpts from the letters that she would write to her husband and a few other people. But anyway, each day talking about the progress she was making. This book that she's writing is the story of Jesus, the life of Christ, which is now the desire of ages is what we have it as, starting with His birth and the angels and so forth, and then going until He's resurrected and gone to heaven and so forth. Anyway, but that's what she's writing during this time period. And that's, since nobody's there to bother her, she's just writing. Mary is, I think she says, the footnote said
24 pages.
Yeah, behind.
yes, but Mary is the daughter of her sister, so it's her niece, that is there to rewrite, because there weren't typewriters until 1883. So I mean, we got a ways to go before we get to typewriters. And so all this is handwritten. She writes it as much as she can, and then Mary rewrites it so that it probably is more legible. Anyway, and then she has to approve it. So it's going back and forth. She'll write and give it to Mary. Mary will rewrite it and give it back to her, and then she'll reread it. And then after they get a week's worth or whatever, they send it to the printer to be the type to be set, to be getting ready for publication. I mean, it's a lot of
tedious.
lot of things happening.
That was probably an inkwell and a quill.
Yes, exactly right. You're right. It's not a fountain pen. Right. Okay. You want to pick it up or whose turn? Who was reading this then? That was John? Okay. Dory, you want to start April 14?
Okay. It seems to me my writings are important, and I am so feeble, so unable to do the work with justice. I have pleaded with God to be imbued with His Holy Spirit, to be connected with heaven, that this work may be done right. I can never do this work without the special blessing of God. April 16. I have written quite a number of pages today. Mary is hard after me. She gets so enthusiastic over some subjects. She brings in the manuscripts after she has copied it to read it to me. She showed me today quite a heavy pile of manuscripts she had prepared. I'm feeling very free and peaceful. I feel the precious love of Christ in my heart. It humbles me in my own sight, while Jesus is exalted before me. Oh, how I do long for that social and mysterious connection with Jesus that elevates us above the temporal things of life. It is my anxiety to be right with God, to have His Spirit continually witnessing with me that I am indeed a child of God. April 18. We went to the city, San Francisco, Sunday night. I spoke to quite a large congregation of outsiders with acceptance, taking up the subject of the loaves and fishes with which Jesus, by His miraculous power, fed about 10,000 people that were continually collecting after the Savior had blessed the small portion of food. Christ walking on the sea, and the Jews requiring a sign that He was the Son of God. The neighbor next to me, next to the church, near the public garden, was there. Craig, I believe his name is. They all listened with wide open eyes and some open mouths. I would feel pleased to meet my brethren and sisters in camp meeting. It is just such work as I enjoy, much better than the confinement of writing. But this will break up my work and defeat the plans of getting out my books, for I cannot do both, travel and write. Now seems to be my golden opportunity. Mary is with me, the best copyist I can ever have. Another such chance may never be mine.
I have just completed, April 21, I have just completed quite a lengthy article on several miracles, makes 50 pages. We have prepared about 150 pages since you left. We feel the best of satisfaction in what we have prepared. April 24, Mary has just been reading to me 2 articles, one on the loaves and fishes and Christ walking on the water, and stating to his hearers he was the bread of life, which caused some of his disciples to turn from him. This takes 50 pages and comprises many subjects. I do think that it is most precious matter I have ever written. Mary is just as enthusiastic over it. She thinks it's the highest value, and I'm perfectly satisfied with it. The other article was upon Christ going through the cornfield, plucking ears of corn and healing the withered hand. 12 pages. If I can, with Mary's help, get out these subjects of such intense interest, I could say, Lord, now lettest thou thy servant depart in peace. These writings are all I can see now. My heart and mind are in this work, and the Lord will sustain me in doing this work. I believe the Lord will give me health. I have asked Him, and He will answer my prayer. I love the Lord. I love His cause. I love His people. I feel great peace and calmness of mind. There seems to be nothing to confuse and distract my mind. And with so much hard thinking, my mind could not be perplexed with anything without being overtaxed. April 25. I cannot merely portion my writings to 1/2 the day, as some of the time my head troubles me, and then I have to rest, lie down, stop thinking, and take my time for writing when I can do so comfortably. I cannot rush business. This work must be done carefully and slowly and accurately. The subjects we have prepared are well gotten up. They please me. April 27. I have written 15 pages today. Mary Clow is hard after me. She has copied 15 pages today, a good large day's work. Never have I had such an opportunity in my life before. I will improve it. We have written about 200 pages since you left, all copied, ready for printers. I feel that I am less than nothing, but Jesus is my all, my righteousness and my wisdom and my strength. Amen. May 5. I have been writing more than usual, which was too much for me. I cannot and must not write more than a half a day, but I continue to step over the bounds and pay for it. My mind is on the subjects day and night. I have strong confidence in prayer. The Lord hears me, and I believe in His salvation. In His strength I trust. In His strength I shall complete my writings. I cling firmly to His hand with unwavering confidence. I have important subjects coming in the next paper on Jeremiah. My mind was urged to this by the Spirit of God. The view I had 16 years ago was forcefully impressed on my mind. I saw that important matter was to be seen applicable to the people of God. This was in reference to the testimony God had given me to bear in the reproving wrong. May 11th, if I get my writings, all manuscript, my part of the work is done, and I shall be relieved. October 19th, we have decided to have the printers at the Review and Herald office in Battle Creek go on my book and not transport these books across the plains again. Part of the book is already printed. We shall not have them stereotyped. Because we shall not wait to have matters of my book so very, very exact, but get out the first edition and get it in the market. Then we can take time to get out more perfect editions on the Pacific Coast and have it stereotyped. Then your father and I, then your father's and my life will be written and printed in the Pacific printing office. But we have all used our best judgment and think that we had better remain here till December and complete the edition. October 26. We are in the very worst drive and hurrying getting off our Volume 2, Spirit of Prophecy. 3 new forms are already printed. If we remain here 4 weeks longer, they're in Battle Creek, we shall have the book completed and remove from my mind a great burden of care.
All right. Stereotyped is a printing terminology. As they sent the manuscripts to the printer, it has to be hand set and hand type. Each letter put in order to make the words and then racked up in a big form. I've done it before. I know what it's all about. Anyway, and then because that was the way they did it. But in doing that, they could then go back and make corrections without much cost, a matter of just finding where it's at and changing those letters around. Whereas the stereotype would be making a plate that would be the whole page at one time, and then you'd print the whole thing. With this line type set, it's each individual letter, and it's on a big platen, and then it goes on a page, and you print a page at a time too. But it's set one piece at a time, one letter at a time. And so by doing it by hand set, she says, we're going to go ahead and do this and print it, and then as we see to make corrections, that we can fine tune it and then put it on the plates that can be then are more mass produced and easier to work with. Anyway, so those are some printing concepts that not necessarily is well understood, but that was what was taking place. We'll just set it by hand and make the changes that we can't need to before we make a plate.
In school? Or
yes, when I was in college.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about that?
I actually ran the letter presses, which used the handset type. Okay? Although it had graduated from handset that they would type it into a machine and it would put one line of type on one piece of lead and all the letters would be formed on it. So you'd have each line in the book would be one piece of metal with all the letters on it. And then
So they're just stamped.
then they'd stack them all off, right?
Yeah.
And then they would be put on a platen, and then I'd put the paper in and they would ink it and print it and so forth.
If I understand, I am not sure if I understand, but it is like they made every page in what is the material? The material.
Lead.
It's lead,
See?
except it's not lead the way they were doing it. They were steel. okay? And each letter is one little piece. And you'd put them side by side by side by side to make the word, and words go together to make a sentence. Exactly. Each letter is a little piece of metal, and it's steel. And so you set those by hand. And so you'd have the alphabet case is about this wide and about this long, and you've got hundreds of each letter in little boxes, and they're sorted in some order. Okay?
Backwards too?
Yes, it's printed, inverted, mirror imaged.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you'd take each letter and put it in place, and you'd pick the next letter, and this one, there's your next word, and this one. And so you'd make the sentence come across. And then you would have a certain length of place to put it in, and then you start the next line, each little letter. Okay? That was handset type, and using steel letters. And it's difficult. And then now, what I used to do, they would do some of this on special occasions, particularly if it was unique and special print and types and so forth. It would be letter by letter. But they got it where a machine, they would type it in, and it would just do a lead set of all those letters and the words across one line. And then you'd have another, and it would come out the end, and you'd put it in your platen. And then they'd get the next line, and it'd be all the words crossed, and they would put it in. And they were sitting typing it in, and it would come out as a lead set. Okay, with the handset, the steel one. I know this isn't interesting or on the topic, but that you could print it, and then you'd have to wash them, all the letters, and resort them and put them back in the boxes where they went in the right style. Yes, all the little stuff in it. The lead ones, you could run your job, and then they would go to the vat, and it would remelt the lead down to be liquid. Okay, and then they pour it into what they called pigs, which were bars of lead about this long and about this wide, flat on the side because you pour it into this curvature, but the top of it would be flat as it cooled. And so, but it was probably about this big, so to speak, but about this long. And on the end, it had a little hook on it that when you went back to the typesetter, that little hook would stand on a chain, and it would feed the pig into the vat to melt to be able to then print out new letters. Anyway, it was interesting. Anyway, but then they got to where they made a plate, and they would take those letters and imprint them onto a sheet so that you'd have the whole 3 or 4 pages at a time on a sheet. But if you need to make corrections, you'd have to redo the whole sheet. Whereas if it's line set, typeset, each letter, then they would individually just make this word them instead of those, and just make little changes. So it was a lot easier to make the changes until they got it. But she wanted to go ahead and get it out rather than wait till we make all those changes before it ever hits the market. Go ahead and print what we got. And those corrections we can make. Yeah, and then we'll make a plate then later to then be able to do it more mass producing. Anyway, so that was some of the stuff that she was talking about. She may not have all understood it, but anyway, when I read it, it's like, this makes sense. I know all this about this stuff. Because I used to, for fun, type some things, handset types for myself, and make little cards or little things just for me, for my personal. The print shop was open. If you want to do it, you can do what you want on your time.
You still have them?
Oh, I don't. No, I didn't have it, but
I meant the cards.
I do have a few. I made recipe cards for Ramona, and it's got a little, can't say this out loud because it's not in vogue today, a picture of Aunt Jemima. It was a piece of metal, and then out beside it I wrote from the kitchen of Ramona or something like that, and a little made recipe cards. And I hand set all those and then printed them. Okay. Anyway, but yes, now I do it on a computer. It's still Aunt Jemima. It says Ramona's Kitchen or whatever. It's a little different now, but it was that made a lot of sense to me because I'd been there and I knew what it's talking about. But they were trying to rush it through, so they would go ahead and get it done and make the corrections and fine tune it later and so forth before they made the plate. All right. So this is interesting to me. That was interesting to see the development of the books that we have as books, and they started out with just letters or excerpts from letters, put together in pamphlets, put together then in shorter volumes until it got to be the whole set. Yes,
I don't
Doria.
remember exactly where, but okay. I don't remember exactly where, but I think we read that she was pleased with the job too.
She was.
So that means, because she was a humble person,
Sure.
so that means that she's accepting, God gave me that,
Mhm.
you know? It's not, that was her ideas.
That's right,
She-
exactly
it's
right.
so beautiful that she's saying, yes, it's, I am impressed because it was not her.
Right.
She was
Yep.
used.
Yep, that's very true,
Yeah.
very true. All right. Anything you want to share for our prayer time?
Guess we'll continue to remember Lenoy.
Yes, and he is improving though. He's doing
Yeah.
well. I asked him, I was there the day before yesterday, I think it was.
At the rehab, yeah.
Yep, and asked him how he was doing and how much pain. He says, no pain until they make me do this. He said, then it really aches a lot to have to move my leg. He said, but it's getting better, and all the therapists have been saying, you're doing really, really good. You're advancing faster than most people, and so.
I think we should continue to remember Mark and Debbie Baldwin to
Mm-hmm.
put them on our prayer list.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, remember our evangelism issues. The revival coming up next week on Friday, a week from this tomorrow, day after tomorrow. And the Bible studies have been going on.
Yes, yeah.
I need to know where you live. Where do you live? Towards Mill Spring?
Yeah, we live close to the Angles up in Lake Lure.
I have one to give you then.
Okay.
I think I brought the information tonight. It's Donna Sullivan. She's been coming to church 3 or 4 different times. And on one of our green cards, she's asked for a Bible study from our church. And so I've contacted her earlier. She didn't give me a street address. She has a post office box in Columbus. And I thought, well, so I wrote her a text message and asked for her address. And it's on Grassy Creek, I think it is.
Grassy Knob Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's way up there, and it's like, man, that's a long ways out. But I thought you lived in that direction.
We do.
And I thought that might be a good one for you to have. Her work schedule's unique and different, and so you need to contact her and say, the pastor said we can study with you because we're closer in the vicinity and so forth, and then work on that.
decide with her in her job, home or home.
Yes, however you want to do that, you can talk with her.
And you got the studies in
Yes,
place?
yeah, I just ordered them last week. They came in yesterday.
Okay.
Anyway, a whole box.
You've got the number, her contact?
Yes, I will. I'll share that with you when we get done here. I'll go get the lessons for you, and you'll have your copy of lessons, and you'll need to do them ahead of time. Well, you know all that stuff. You went to the seminar, okay? Anyway, but yes, I'll get that to you.
Perfect.
Anyway, keep that in prayer too. Julie and Jennifer are doing some down in Inman direction. John and I went to visit a lady in Landrum last week. I'm trying to remember when it was. Anyway, I've had, as I mentioned last night in our board meeting, I think 16.
14, I think, or was it 16?
Now it's 16 anyway. Hers was number 16 that I put on there for Donna. Anyway, 4 of those are not in our area. They're somewhere else, and so I sent them to the other pastors
Yes.
to help follow up with that.
Convenient.
Right, and so we have then 12 that we're working on, so we still got a few extras to pick up. Kelly wants to do some. I don't have any, I got one in Saluda.
Well, we talked about this.
Okay, and she wants somebody to help her, so I'm gonna try to see if Pastor Robinson will help, meet her from Hendersonville and study together with that, so she has a mentee, a mentor in helping what's happening.
And I think sometimes people are more comfortable if there's 2 people.
Yeah, it works really good if there's 2 people. It works real good if there's 2 people, that's for sure. All right. Any other thoughts for prayer?
You know what?
Yes.
Maybe have somebody go with you, and then once you get comfortable with the person, you can say, is it okay if you and I do this? And
Right, that would work too.
yeah, and then,
Mhm.
probably
Did
some
Yahaira
all
talk to
day,
you,
she'll
my sister-in-law?
send in your birthday
I haven't talked to her
When
yet.
she
She wants to do that?
She's having, I don't know if it's only Hispanics, but women,
Okay.
Women,
and
yeah.
women, and some of them not.
I haven't gotten any responses that look to be surely Hispanic as far as their name structures. But, you know, you can't always tell, but I'm just saying, haven't seen anything that looks Hispanic, so.
Yeah, exactly.
But-
Okay, no, it's okay.
but I'm happy to
has
put
own-
her to
she
work,
probably
too.
is going to talk.
Okay, all right. Yes, Kelly, excuse me, I keep not
No,
letting you
it's okay.
speak.
I have a praise.
Yay.
My work has been very, very challenging the last 2 to 3 months. We have a new group of surgeons
Mm-hmm.
that have joined us, and my workload has tripled, and it's very challenging.
Yes.
But the Lord has been sending me such sweet patients, and they just make it so much easier and pleasant. And today I was laughing my head off. This lady was so funny, and it was a gift. And I know it's just the Lord helping me, because it's hard. And anyway, I was so thankful. And then I heard that most of us know Bill Strong. He broke his ankle.
Oh, ouch.
And Dixie's supposed to be having back surgery next week. She said so far she hasn't canceled her surgery, but I guess they could both use our prayers
Okay, all right.
for their
For
healing.
sure. Yep, right. All righty, thank you for being with us on Zoom. I appreciate that. If you want to join together, you can have your group praying, if that works out.